Dominic Reed's corner office overlooked the Chicago skyline, all steel and glass, much like the man himself. At 42, he had built Reed Innovations into a technology empire through ruthless determination and an unwavering focus that left little room for personal connections. "Mr. Reed, your 10 o'clock is waiting," announced Olivia Bennett through the intercom. Her voice calm and efficient as always. He pressed the button. "Send them in. And have the quarterly reports on my desk." By noon, the board meeting concluded with another successful acquisition. Dominic remained behind as executives filed out, their congratulations barely registering. He unlocked his phone to find 3 missed calls from Westview Care Center. "Mr. Reed, I'm afraid your mother's caregiver called in sick today. The facility," director explained when he returned the call. "We're short-staffed and Mrs. Reed is quite anxious." Dominic pinched the bridge of his nose. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. His mother, Eleanor Reed, had suffered a severe stroke 5 years ago. Once a brilliant literature professor, she now struggled with right-side paralysis and occasional aphasia. She'd maintained her sharp mind and wit, but her physical limitations had forced her into assisted living. Dominic Eleanor's face brightened when he entered her room. At 68, her silver hair framed a face still beautiful despite the slight droop on one side. What a surprise. "There's been a staffing issue," he explained, helping her gather her medications. "You'll need to come to the office with me today." Eleanor's hand trembled slightly. "You're never a burden, Mom." The words came automatically, but he meant them. Eleanor was his only family since his father's death a decade ago. The only person who had seen beyond his achievements to the boy who once built rocket models and read science fiction late into the night. The drive to Reed Tower was silent. Dominic mentally rearranged his schedule, calculating the disruption. He'd set Eleanor up in his private office, minimize interactions with staff. Most employees had never even met his mother. He kept his personal and professional lives strictly separated. As the elevator climbed to the executive floor, Eleanor gripped her walking cane tighter. "Your kingdom in the clouds," she joked nervously. "Just for a few hours," he assured her, not missing how she straightened her blouse, conscious of her appearance. When the doors opened, his executive assistant looked up from her desk, surprise flickering across her face before professional composure returned. "Mr. Reed, I wasn't expecting you back so soon." Olivia Bennett stood, her auburn hair pulled into its usual neat bun, warm brown eyes, taking in the situation immediately. "Hey, Ms. Bennett, this is my mother, Eleanor. Let she be staying in my office today. Please ensure we're not disturbed." Dominic didn't anticipate was how this simple change to his carefully ordered world would crack the foundations of the walls he'd spent years perfecting. The morning progressed with Dominic attempting to work while keeping an eye on his mother. Eleanor sat quietly on his office sofa, thumbing through a magazine, clearly trying to be invisible. Every few minutes, he caught her glancing around the office, taking in the space where her son spent most of his waking hours. "Do you need anything?" he asked for the 3rd time in an hour. "I'm fine, dear," Eleanor replied, though her fingers fidgeted with her cardigan button. A soft knock interrupted them. Olivia entered with a tray balanced in one hand, the door held open with her foot. "Excuse me, Mr. Reed. I thought Mrs. Reed might enjoy some tea." She placed the tray on the coffee table. "It's Earl Grey with a splash of milk. But I brought lemon and honey as well, in case you prefer it differently." Eleanor's surprise was evident. How thoughtful. "Earl Grey is my favorite." "Mine too," Olivia smiled, pouring the tea with practiced grace. "I noticed the book in your bag, Jane Austen." Persuasion, Eleanor confirmed, visibly brightening. "Have you read it?" "Several times." "And Elliot is possibly my favorite Austen heroine." Dominic watched, puzzled by this unexpected exchange. In 3 years as his secretary, Olivia had been nothing but professional efficient, anticipatory of his needs, but never personal. Yet here she was, discussing literature with his mother as if they were old friends. "I should return to work," Olivia said, turning to Dominic. "Mr. Reed, your conference call with Tokyo has been moved to 3. I've adjusted your schedule accordingly." "Thank you, Ms. Bennett." When the door closed, Eleanor looked at her son with amusement. "She's lovely. She's competent," he corrected automatically. "Those aren't mutually exclusive qualities, Dominic." Hour later, Dominic stepped out for an unavoidable meeting. When he returned, he paused at the strange sound coming from his office laughter. His mother's laughter, something he hadn't heard enough lately. Through the partially open door, he saw Olivia seated beside Eleanor, showing her something on an iPad. His mother was smiling broadly, her good hand gesturing animatedly. "And this is the botanical garden I visited last weekend," Olivia was saying. The spring flowers were just starting to bloom. "Beautiful," Eleanor murmured. "I used to garden." Before ... she gestured vaguely at her weakened side. "Have you visited the adaptive gardening section at the community center? They have raised beds designed for wheelchair access." Dominic watched as Olivia gently helped his mother hold the iPad when it started to slip from her grasp. There was no pity in the gesture, just a natural attentiveness that preserved Eleanor's dignity. "I should get back to my desk," Olivia said. "Standing, but I'll bring lunch in about an hour if that's all right. The cafe downstairs makes a wonderful chicken salad. It would be lovely, dear. Thank you for the company." Dominic stepped back as Olivia exited, pretending he'd just arrived.
Ow.
Their eyes met briefly. "Your mother is charming, Mr. Reed," she said simply before returning to her desk. Something unfamiliar stirred in Dominic's chest as he watched her walk away. For the next week, Eleanor's regular caregiver remained ill, forcing Dominic to bring his mother to the office each day. What had begun as an inconvenience gradually transformed into an unexpected window into a side of his secretary he'd never noticed. Olivia arrived early each morning with fresh pastries that happened to be from the bakery near my apartment. She discovered Eleanor's love of crossword puzzles and began printing the daily New York Times puzzle in a larger font. When she noticed Eleanor struggling with her water bottle, a special grip-friendly cup appeared the next day. "Have to do this?" Dominic mentioned to his mother on the third day. Eleanor gave him a knowing look. "People rarely have to be kind, Dominic. They choose to be." On Thursday afternoon, Dominic returned from a meeting to find his office empty. Panic flashed through him until he heard familiar voices from the small conference room down the hall. He found Eleanor and Olivia there, surrounded by other staff members. And then this brilliant boy, only 11, corrected his science teacher about rocket propulsion, Eleanor was saying to a captivated audience. Poor woman had to check her textbooks. Dominic recognized the story from his childhood. His employees were laughing, glancing between mother and son with new understanding. "Mom," he said, embarrassment and something else pride coloring his voice. "Dominic, Olivia was just showing me where everyone works. Did you know Thomas, in accounting, has a mother who taught at the same university I did?" Olivia stood. "Hope you don't mind, Mr. Reed." Mrs. Reed mentioned feeling cooped up, so we took a short tour. What surprised him wasn't the tour, but how his normally competitive staff had welcomed his mother. Janelle from marketing was showing Eleanor photos of her children. Ben from development was describing his latest project in patient non-technical terms that evening. As he drove Eleanor home, she broke their comfortable silence. "Your Olivia's remarkable." "She's not my Olivia, Mom." "No." Eleanor raised an eyebrow. "The way you watch her says differently." "I appreciate her professionalism," he said stiffly. Dominic Eleanor's voice softened. "When your father died, I built walls too. It felt safer. But walls don't just keep pain out, they keep joy from getting in." He helped her into her apartment, deflecting further conversation about Olivia. But later that night, in his empty penthouse, he found himself remembering how Olivia's face transformed when she laughed with his mother. The graceful efficiency of her movements, the kindness in her eyes that he'd somehow failed to notice for. 3 years the next morning, he stopped at the bakery near her apartment and brought in pastries himself. "Good morning, Miss Bennett." He placed the bag on her desk. "I thought you might enjoy these." Her surprise was evident, a slight blush coloring her cheeks. "Thank you, Mr. Reed." "Dominic," he corrected, surprising them both. "We're not in meetings. I think you can call me Dominic." Her smile was like sunrise. "Then I'm Olivia." Something shifted between them, subtle but undeniable. A wall beginning to crumble. "It's just a small gathering," Eleanor insisted over the phone. "A few friends from my reading group, my neighbor Harriet, and my physical therapist James. I'd like Olivia to come to my birthday lunch." Dominic paced his living room. "Mom, she's my secretary, who has shown me more kindness in 2 weeks than most people have in years." Besides, didn't you tell me she loves gardens? The community center's spring display will be at its peak. He couldn't argue with his mother's logic, or did he want to examine too closely why the thought of Olivia attending a family event made his heart race? When he extended the invitation the next morning, Olivia looked genuinely touched. I'd be honored to come. Your mother is special. Saturday arrived with perfect spring weather. Dominic arrived early to help set up the garden party in the community center's courtyard. Eleanor, dressed in a floral dress that matched her bright mood, directed proceedings from her wheelchair. She's nervous about seeing you outside work, Eleanor confided. She changed her outfit 3 times, she told Harriet, who told me. Mom, he warned. What? I'm just observing. When Olivia arrived, Dominic nearly dropped the tray of lemonade he was carrying. Gone was the professional secretary in tailored suits. This Olivia wore a yellow sundress, her auburn hair falling in loose waves around her shoulders. She carried a small potted orchid in a wrapped gift. Happy birthday, Eleanor, she said, embracing his mother. Then more hesitantly, hello, Dominic. You look... He searched for an appropriate word that wouldn't reveal too much. Different. Eleanor rolled her eyes. Ignore my son's stunted emotional vocabulary. He means you look lovely. The afternoon unfolded in dappled sunlight. Dominic found himself watching Olivia as she helped serve cake, laughed with Eleanor's friends, and listened intently to James describing the adaptive gardening program. She fit seamlessly into this part of his life, as if she had always belonged. Your young lady is delightful, Harriet said, settling beside him. Eleanor says you met at work? She's not he began automatically, then stopped. Yes, she works for me. Not today, Harriet observed wisely. Today, she's just herself. And you can't take your eyes off her. After lunch, Eleanor insisted they tour the gardens. Dominic found himself walking beside Olivia among blooming cherry trees. Thank you for inviting me, she said quietly. It means a lot to be included. My mother adores you, and you. The question hung between them, brave and vulnerable. Before he could answer, Eleanor called them over to see a particularly beautiful arrangement of spring flowers. The moment passed, but something had changed. The wall was now barely standing. Monday morning arrived with new tension. The easy rapport that had developed over garden paths seemed to evaporate under fluorescent lights and professional expectations. Your 9 o'clock is here, Olivia announced. All business. Thank you, Dominic replied, equally formal. The pattern continued for days. Each interaction professionally perfect, emotionally distant. Eleanor, now back with her regular caregiver, called to ask about Olivia daily. Have you spoken to her? Really spoken to her? She pressed. It's complicated, Mom. Only because you're making it so. On Thursday afternoon, Dominic found a small potted plant on his desk, a miniature version of the cherry trees they had. Admired in the garden, the card simply read, Eleanor mentioned your office could use some life. Oh, the gesture broke something in him. After his last meeting, he found Olivia preparing to leave, her desk meticulously organized for the next day. Do you have a moment? He asked, nodded, following him into his office. The small tree sat prominently on his desk, impossible to ignore. Thank you for the tree, he began awkwardly. It's nothing, she replied, hands clasped before her. Your mother mentioned you used to garden with your father. Of course, Eleanor had shared that detail. I've been thinking about what happened or didn't happen at the garden. Mr. Reed, Dominic, we don't need to discuss this. I understand. Professional boundaries. That's just it. He moved closer. For years, I've built my life around boundaries. Walls between personal and professional. Walls around emotions that might make me vulnerable. When my mother had her stroke, I built walls to protect myself from possibly losing her too. Olivia remained silent, watching him with those perceptive brown eyes. Then you... double quotes, he continued. You didn't see walls. You saw my mother. Not as my inconvenient problem, but as Eleanor. You showed kindness without agenda. And somehow, you saw me too. I've always seen you, she admitted softly. Not just the CEO, but the man who leaves handwritten notes for the cleaning staff at Christmas, who remembers everyone's coffee order, who looks at his mother with such love. He hadn't realized she had noticed these things about him. "I'm not good at this, at vulnerability. Neither am I," she confessed. "My last relationship ended because I was too focused on my career. I've kept my own walls up." Perhaps he suggested, taking her hand tentatively instead of walls. "We could try building bridges." Her fingers intertwined with his. "I'd like that. Have dinner with me tomorrow? Not as my secretary, not as my mother's friend, just as Olivia." Her smile was answer enough. Later that evening, he called his mother. "You were right," he admitted. "About Olivia? About walls not just keeping pain out, but joy from getting in?" Laner's voice was warm with approval. "Some people come into our lives unexpectedly, Dominic. The brave ones let them stay." As he hung up, Dominic looked at the small cherry tree on his nightstand, moved from his office. For years he had built an empire of glass and steel. Now, with Olivia's kindness having cracked his carefully constructed walls, he was finally ready to build something far more enduring, a relationship founded on the most unexpected and powerful foundation: compassion.